We turned a few dials on the happy cycling, and this is the music I got. This video is going to tell you how it works and explain the features. The name comes from a Boards of Canada song. First, I'll tell you what it is. It makes pulses at regular intervals that by themselves are fairly boring. But when you combine two pulses at different intervals of time, things get pretty funky in a hurry. And those pulses advance the sequencer, not the clock. It's like on the SH-101 when you advance the sequencer with a drum machine, and you get endless iterations of the bass line. So it's not a conventional sequencer by any means. And you can quickly spice it up with octave jumps every n pulses, random velocity, random direction, reverse, ratchet, and swing. It's inspired by a guy called Gerald when he showed in a video how to make amazing bass lines by advancing the SH-101 sequencer with drum triggers, not with a clock. And it's inspired by two products, the tip-top Trigger Riot and the Lambda Polypulse. Let's take a look at all the features. So we have 4 sequencers here, which can be used for drums or synth. And they're labeled cycle 1 through 4. So cycle 1 I'm going to use for the kick. Now if you've seen Mylar Melodies video on the tip-top Trigger Riot, then this looks a bit familiar. You can dial up a 4 on the floor beat here very quickly and then make it funky by adding other pulses or resets. In this instance, I'm feeding the pulses over to an Ableton drum rack. So I'll enter C1 in the first note box, and that will play the kick on the drum rack. I'll dial in a 4, meaning every 4 16th notes, I'll get a pulse. Now I can extend this out to up to 16 notes, or maybe 11 for polymeter. And I can fill these note boxes in quickly with my MIDI keyboard if record is enabled on the track by hitting this note entry button. Then on cycle 2, I'll set the note to play the snare on the drum rack. And that's D1. And I'll enter 8, meaning every 8 16th notes there will be a pulse. On cycle 3, I'll set the note to play the hi-hat and put a 1 in to get a pulse every 16th note. And that's a standard 4 on the floor beat. Not very funky yet. So we can add a 5 to make the kick track funkier by playing the kick every 4 16ths and every 5 16ths. And even more funky than that is to put a 6 in and then reset it every 14. So I'll set this on 6. And I'll use the reset at 14. Now there's something on here called fill. And what that will do is it'll fill every n times. So if you set it to, let's say 6, and every 6 pulses that come in, the green light goes on, meaning that it's going to do a little fill. And this fill is in 30-second notes, so it can do a quick little fill in there. So here I'm getting a very complex pattern on the bongos that I would never be able to come up with. Let's take a look at how that's done. So I'm using 2 of the note list, and I'm using random velocity and random direction. So they're just randomly playing those 2 different sounding bongos. And the intervals are based on 16th notes, but the fill is based on 32nd notes. So by filling every one, this is the fill number column, and it's having a 1 there means I'm filling every one. And it's given me these 32nd notes thrown in there. Now I can make that less frequent. Do every 4th one. Now just tossing in those little flourishes, 32nd note flourishes. Now I can extend the number of notes on the hi-hat out to 16 to demonstrate the ratchet. First of 3 dots there above every note box is the ratchet. So I'll put one in. Put a couple in. In addition, I've got random velocity of the hi-hat. I've got random direction. See it kind of jumping, the cursor jumping around. Then I've got reverse. You see it going, chasing backwards. And I've got swing. Now octave jump every N can do something interesting with the drums. It can create silences every N, because if I octave jump over here on the Ableton drum rack, there's nothing in, there's no samples in the octave up here above. So right now I can create N spaces in there. So every 2, every 3, every 5. So you can create little blank patterns in there. Oh, let me talk about the other 2 LEDs here above every note box. So you've got ratchet, then you've got the chasing light that doesn't do anything. But then you've got a little mute button. If it's green, it's on, and if it's red, it's off. So talking more about the octave, what you can do is take a drum sound and put it at the octave and create some cool variation. So if I take this rim here, get it playing at the octave, let's say every 3. Oops. Get it playing every 3. And so it's jumping up there, but there's no sound. Well, I can take this rim tap here and drag it there. And put it there where that yellow thing is playing. Now it'll throw in that rim tap every octave jump. And you can change that every end to all the way to 8. So I'm getting cool little patterns that I can vary, spicing up my hi-hats. Of course, I can do that with swing. I've got another happy cycling here on the towel bass line. Where I just have a few notes in there. Now, these also sound good using reverse. And random direction as well. Yeah, on the towel, I've got a third happy cycling. And it's just playing single notes, but I've got a chord here using Ableton's chord to create that house chord. This device and other devices I've made are available over on my Patreon. But additionally, I'll put a link where you can get it without belonging to my Patreon if you don't want to. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you in the next video.